The crash that changed everything. The night sky over Desert Valley looked like someone had torn a hole in the universe. Jake Morrison pulled his old pickup truck to the side of the empty highway, watching orange flames dance against the darkness. 26 years old, and tired from another double shift at the auto shop, he should have driven home, should have minded his own business. But something about that crash site called to him. The wreckage stretched across the sandy ground like a metal flower that had bloomed in reverse. This wasn't any airplane Jake had ever seen. The hull curved in impossible ways, made from materials that seemed to shift between silver and deep purple, depending on how the firelight hit them. Steam rose from twisted metal, carrying a sweet scent that reminded him of summer rain. Jake grabbed his flashlight and emergency kit from the truck. His boots crunched through scattered debris as he approached the main section of the craft. The closer he got, the more his skin tingled, like walking through an electrical field. His grandmother would have said it was magic. Jake preferred to think of it as advanced technology. He didn't understand yet. That's when he saw her. She lay crumpled against what might have been a control panel, her body twisted at angles that made Jake's chest tighten with worry. But she wasn't human. Her skin held a faint luminescence, pale blue like moonlight on water. Her hair fell in waves of deep violet, and her ears came to elegant points. She wore a form-fitting suit that looked more grown than manufactured, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed alive. Blood seeped from a gash on her forehead, but it wasn't red. It glowed soft green, like bioluminescent algae Jake had seen in nature documentaries. Her breathing was shallow, barely visible. She was dying. Jake knelt beside her, his heart pounding against his ribs. Everything rational in his mind screamed warnings. Alien, unknown, dangerous. But looking at her face, so peaceful despite her injuries, he felt something else entirely. She looked young, maybe his age in whatever way her species measured time. She looked lost. "Hey," he whispered, not knowing if she could hear him. "You're going to be okay." Without thinking, Jake reached out and touched her hand. Her skin was warm, warmer than he'd expected. The moment their fingers connected, light exploded behind his eyes. Not painful, but overwhelming. Images flashed through his mind like a movie played at triple speed. Vast cities floating among the stars. Beings of light dancing through cosmic storms. A sense of home so profound it made his chest ache. Her eyes snapped open. They were the color of deep space. Dark purple scattered with points of silver light that actually moved like tiny stars. She stared at him with an expression of wonder and confusion, as if she was seeing something impossible. "Damon?" she whispered, her voice carrying an accent that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Jake blinked. "I'm Jake. Jake Morrison." "What's your name?" She struggled to sit up, her movements graceful despite her obvious pain. "I am Zara of the Celestial Tide. But you?" She reached up to touch his face with trembling fingers. "You have his essence, his light. I don't understand." "Nor do I," she admitted, but she didn't pull her hand away. "Yet here you are." Secrets in the starlight, Jake helped Zara to her feet, surprised by how light she felt, despite being nearly his height. The wreckage around them continued to smolder, but neither of them seemed in a hurry to leave. There was something electric in the air between them, a pull that had nothing to do with the alien technology scattered across the desert floor. "We need to get you a hospital," Jake said, though he had no idea how he'd explain an alien woman. To the staff at Desert Valley General. Zara shook her head, her violet hair catching the firelight. "Your medical facilities cannot help me. My body heals differently than yours." She gestured to the gash on her forehead, which was already beginning to close, leaving only a faint silver line. "But I thank you for your concern." "Then what do you need?" "Time. And perhaps ... She hesitated, those star-filled eyes studying his face. Perhaps to understand why you feel so familiar to me. Jake led her to his truck, spreading his jacket across the passenger seat. As they drove away from the crash site, Zara stared out the window at the desert landscape with wonder. "Your world is beautiful," she said softly. "More beautiful than I expected. You've never been to Earth before." "No, but I have seen it in dreams. In memories that are not my own." She turned to him, and Jake had to force himself to keep his eyes on the road. "Tell me about yourself, Jake Morrison. What do you do when you are not rescuing travelers from the stars?" Jake laughed, feeling strangely comfortable despite the surreal situation. "I fix cars, own a little shop in town. It's not glamorous, but I like working with my hands. Like solving problems." "A healer of machines," Zara said with approval. "That is noble work. What about you? What do you do up there among the stars?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. "I was a seeker," she said finally. "One who searches for lost things, lost people, lost truths." "Were you seeking something when you crashed?" "Someone," she corrected. "Though I begin to think that perhaps I have found him." Jake's pulse quickened, but he kept his voice steady. "Who were you looking for?" His name was Damon. He was important. To me, more than important. Her voice grew soft with old pain. "He was part of my soul, as I was part of his. But he was lost to me when the Great Divide happened." "The Great Divide?" "A war between the stars. Many were lost. Many were scattered across the universe like seeds on the wind." She looked at him again, and Jake felt that strange tingling sensation return. But perhaps not all were truly lost. They reached Jake's house, a modest two-story at the edge of town. His nearest neighbor was half a mile away, which suddenly seemed like a blessing. Jake helped Zara from the truck, noticing how she moved with fluid grace despite her recent ordeal. Inside, he set her up in his living room while he made coffee. When he returned with 2 steaming mugs, he found her examining the photographs on his mantelpiece. Wedding pictures of his parents, his high school graduation, his grandmother's funeral. "You have a kind face," she said, picking up a photo of him from last summer. "Kind eyes. Damon had eyes like yours." "Zara," Jake said gently, settling beside her on the couch, "I'm not him. I'm just a guy who fixes cars in a small town. I've never been to space. Never fought in any cosmic war." "I know," she said, "but—" She didn't sound convinced. "Yet when you touched me, I felt him. His warmth, his light, the way he used to make me laugh." She set down the photograph and looked at him directly. "Do you believe in souls, Jake Morrison?" "I guess so. My people believe that souls are eternal, that they can be reborn, transformed, but never truly destroyed." She reached for his hand, and Jake let her take it. "What if some part of Damon found its way here? What if it found its way to you?" Jake wanted to dismiss it as impossible, but sitting here with this beautiful alien woman, whose touch sent lightning through his veins, impossible seemed like a relative concept. Hearts across the universe. 3 days passed like a dream. Jake called in sick to work, something he'd never done without actually being sick. But how could he explain that he was falling for an alien woman who might be the reincarnation of her? Lost love? Some things didn't fit into normal conversation. Zara adapted to human life with surprising ease. She helped him cook breakfast, her touch somehow making even scrambled eggs taste extraordinary. She watched old movies with him on the couch, laughing at comedy routines that shouldn't have translated across species, but somehow did. She slept in his guest room, but Jake often found her on the porch at night, staring up at the stars with an expression of longing that made his heart ache. "Do you miss it?" he asked one evening, joining her on the porch swing. "Your home?" "I miss the freedom," she admitted. The ability to dance between worlds, to see the universe as it truly is. But I do not miss the loneliness. Were you lonely? Even with all those people out there? Zara smiled sadly. You can be lonely in a crowd of millions, Jake. I was lonely for one specific person. She looked at him, but I find that loneliness fading now. Jake's heart skipped. Zara, I need to ask you something. Am I just a replacement for him? For Damon? She was quiet for so long that Jake wondered if he'd overstepped. Then she turned to face him fully, taking his hands in hers. At first, I thought perhaps you were. The resemblance, the feeling of recognition, it was overwhelming. But these past few days, I have come to know you, not as Damon, but as Jake. And I find that I am falling in love with Jake Morrison, the man who fixes cars and makes terrible coffee and laughs at movies that are centuries old. Her eyes sparkled with unshed tears. Is that foolish? Instead of answering with words, Jake leaned forward and kissed her. Her lips were warm and soft, and when they touched, he felt that same explosion of light behind his eyes. But this time, instead of alien memories, he saw possibilities. A future. A life shared between two souls who had found each other across impossible odds. When they broke apart, Zara was glowing faintly, her skin luminescent in the moonlight. Your emotions are so strong, she whispered. So pure, I can feel them like sunlight. Is that normal? For your people? When we connect deeply with someone, yes. We share energy, emotion, even thoughts sometimes. She touched his face gently. But I have never experienced anything this intense, not even with Damon. Jake pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. Maybe that's because this is different. Maybe this is us, not him. Yes, she agreed, her voice full of wonder. This is us. They sat together on the swing, watching the stars wheel overhead. Jake had lived in this small town his entire life, content with his simple existence. But now, with Zara in his arms, the universe felt bigger, more full of possibility. What happens now? He asked eventually. Will your people come looking for you? Perhaps, she said, but not immediately. My ship's distress beacon was destroyed in the crash. They will assume I was lost. And you're okay with that? Zara turned in his arms, her star-filled eyes serious. I spent years searching for something I had lost. I never considered that I might find something better. She kissed him again, soft and sweet. I am exactly where I want to be. Jake held her tighter, feeling like the luckiest man in the universe. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever questions needed answering, he knew one thing for certain. He was never letting her go when worlds collide. The trouble started on a Tuesday. Jake was under the hood of Mrs. Patterson's ancient sedan when Tommy Chun burst through the shop door, his face flushed with excitement and fear. Jake, there are ships in the sky. Military vehicles everywhere. Jake's blood went cold. He'd been dreading this moment for 2 weeks, ever since Zara had become a permanent fixture in his daily life. Someone had noticed the crash site. Someone had questions. He found Zara in his kitchen, her enhanced hearing having already picked up the sound of approaching aircraft. She stood at the window, watching black helicopters circle overhead like mechanical vultures. They have found us, she said calmly, though Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. What do we do? We run, she said simply. Or we fight. Or we surrender and hope they are reasonable. Jake grabbed her hand. I vote for running. They made it to the truck before the first helicopter landed in Jake's front yard. Soldiers poured out, their weapons drawn but not aimed. A woman in a crisp uniform approached slowly, her hands visible and empty. Mr. Morrison, she called out. Agent Rebecca Stone, Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. We need to talk. Jake blinked. The department of what now? We know you're harboring an alien visitor. We're not here to harm anyone. We just need to understand the situation. Zara stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. I am Zara of the Celestial Tide. I claim sanctuary under the Universal Accords of Non-Interference. Agent Stone's eyebrows shot up. You know our protocols? I know many things, Zara replied, including the fact that your government has been in contact with several spacefaring civilizations for over a decade. Jake stared at her. Wait, what? Agent Stone sighed. This is classified information, Mr. Morrison, but given the circumstances. She gestured for them to follow her to a mobile command unit that had materialized in Jake's driveway. Let's talk inside. The next hour shattered everything Jake thought he knew about the world. Earth wasn't isolated. Humans weren't alone. There was an entire galactic community out there, and Earth was slowly being integrated into it. The crashes, the sightings, the cover-ups, all part of a careful plan to prepare humanity for contact. Your girlfriend here is the first to make unauthorized contact, Agent Stone explained. Usually, first contact is handled through diplomatic channels. I was not seeking contact, Zara said. I was fleeing from it. Fleeing from what? Zara looked at Jake, then back at Agent Stone. There is a faction among my people who believe that Earth should be managed, controlled. They see humans as children who need guidance. And you disagree? I have lived among humans for 2 weeks. I have seen their capacity for love, for growth, for wonder. They do not need to be managed. They need to be free to choose their own path. Agent Stone made notes on her tablet. And your relationship with Mr. Morrison? Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. That's personal. I'm afraid it's not, Agent Stone said gently. Cross-species relationships carry implications we're still trying to understand. Genetic compatibility, cultural integration, legal status. We're not asking for anyone's permission, Jake said firmly. We're two people who found each other. That's all, is it? Agent Stone turned to Zara. Your people's emotional bonding process creates physiological changes in both partners. Mr. Morrison's brain chemistry has been altered by extended contact with you. Are you certain his feelings are genuine? Jake felt like he'd been punched. What does that mean? Zara's face went pale. It means I may have accidentally influenced your emotions. The bonding process is usually mutual and conscious. But if you were unaware, are you saying you brainwashed me? No. Zara reached for him, but Jake stepped back. The bonding enhances what is already there. It cannot create love where none exists. But it can amplify it, Agent Stone said. Make it stronger, more intense than it would naturally be. Jake ran his hands through his hair, feeling his world tilt sideways again. So nothing I've felt is real? Everything you have felt is real, Zara said desperately. The bonding does not create false emotions. It simply removes barriers, allows us to feel more deeply. That's not the same thing, isn't it? She stepped closer, her eyes pleading. Before I crashed, before we touched, did you not feel empty? Lonely? As if you were waiting for something? Jake wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. He had felt that way, for years. What happens now? He asked Agent Stone. That depends on you both, she replied. You can come with us. Help us understand the implications of human-alien bonding. Or we can arrange for the bonding to be reversed. Zara returns to her people, and you go back to your normal life. No memory of any of this. Jake looked at Zara, seeing his own fear reflected in her star-filled eyes. Love beyond the stars, the reversal process would take place at a government facility 300 miles away. Jake and Zara had 24 hours to decide. They spent it driving through the desert, talking about everything and nothing, trying to figure out what was real and what was cosmic manipulation. Do you want to know what I think? Jake said as they sat on a hill overlooking the lights of the city. I think it doesn't matter. What do you mean? I mean, maybe the bonding amplified what I felt. Maybe it made everything more intense. But the feelings were mine to begin with. He took her hand, noting how perfectly it fit in his. I was attracted to you before we touched. I wanted to help you. I cared about you. But if we reverse the bonding, then we'll find out if what we have is strong enough to survive without cosmic enhancement. Jake smiled at her. I'm willing to take that chance if you are. Zara stared at him for a long moment. You would risk losing me? I would risk everything for the chance to love you freely. Without question, without doubt. She kissed him then, and Jake felt that familiar explosion of light and warmth. But underneath it, he felt something else. Something quieter, but no less. Powerful. Something that belonged entirely to him. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Let us choose freely. The procedure was surprisingly simple. A few injections, some monitoring, and then a gradual fading of the supernatural connection between them. Jake felt it like a light dimming, a song ending. For a moment, standing in that sterile medical facility, he felt utterly alone. Then Zara smiled at him, and the loneliness vanished. Hello, she said softly. I am Zara of the Celestial Tide. I fell from the stars and landed in your desert. Hello, Jake replied, his heart racing. I'm Jake Morrison. I fix cars and make terrible coffee. I think I would like to get to know you better. I'd like that too. They left the facility together, neither of them entirely sure what came next. Zara was granted asylum on Earth, her warnings about the controlling faction taken seriously by the powers that be. Jake sold his shop and used the money to start a new life in a bigger city, where alien integration was becoming more common. 6 months later, Jake proposed to Zara on the anniversary of her crash. She said yes in 3 different languages, including English. Their wedding was a small affair, attended by Agent Stone, Tommy Chun, and a handful of other humans and aliens who had found love across the vast emptiness of space. Do you ever wonder? Zara asked one evening as they watched the sunset from their apartment balcony. If we would have found each other without the crash? Jake considered it. Maybe not in this lifetime, but I like to think we would have found each other eventually. Some souls are meant to be together, even across different species. Especially across different species, Jake said, pulling her close. Love doesn't care about biology. It only cares about connection. Zara looked up at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. There are others out there, you know, other species, other worlds, other possibilities. Sounds like an adventure. Would you like to see them? The stars, I mean. Now that Earth is opening to the galaxy, there will be opportunities for travel. Jake thought about his old life, his small town, his simple existence. Then he looked at Zara, brilliant and beautiful, and brave enough to fall in love with a stranger. From another world. Yes, he said. I think I would like that very much. They stood together on the balcony, 2 souls who had found each other across impossible odds, planning their future among the stars. And somewhere in the distance, a ship rose into the night sky, carrying other dreamers toward other worlds, other possibilities, other loves waiting to be discovered in the vast, wonderful universe. The end.